Hello, welcome back. So at the end of the last episode, we left off midway setting up our applied energistics autocrafting system. So if we go down here, we do have our pattern provider set up with the molecular assembler, so we can do some autocrafting with like crafting table recipes, but we don't have any processing recipes set up, and that's where I'm going to put over here. We're still kind of handicapped in some of the nicer things we can do. I do want to set up the assembler matrix and the quantum computer by the end of this episode, but you can see the crafts for these guys. Like, let's say I want to make, I don't know, like this pattern core. All of that stuff is done through the crystal assemblers, and it's going to require some processors that we don't have yet, and also it's going to require the extended pattern providers, which are also done in the crystal assembler. So it's kind of a lot of things to do manually, and that's the reason why I set up this normal autocrafting, just so we can autocraft the better autocrafting machines, and then we'll be set. This is temporary. So you may have noticed that these components for the crystal assembler are going to need these paintballs, which require matter balls, and matter balls is the same way you make them, the same way you do with the singularities. So I'm going to set up the Superfactory Manager sync thing one more time just to get a bunch of matter balls. I forgot to do that in yesterday's episode. But basically, the crystal assembler is going to be a multi-block structure that's going to completely replace all of our molecular assembler and pattern provider multi-blocks that are doing the crafting table autocrafts. So that one 7x7x7 multi-block is going to replace all of these, and it's going to offer us much more pattern storage and craft things faster. And then our CPU that we have down here is just a tiny little guy. And that guy is giving us 26 coprocessors, so our machines can basically have 26 crafts going on at the same time with 64,000 storage. When we set up the quantum computer, it is going to be, I think it's over 5,000 coprocessors and like a ton of storage, more than we'll ever need. So that will replace our CPU. And the other nice thing about the quantum computer is that its coprocessors can be shared between different crafts. So right now we have one CPU. That means we can queue up one craft only at a time. If we have one craft going and we want to autocraft something else, we're not going to have enough CPUs to start another craft. But the nice thing about the quantum computer is you can just have one quantum computer and it can share the coprocessors between multiple different crafts. So you're never going to need to set up multiple CPUs like this one. But this is just one. We can only do one craft at a time now. If I wanted to do two, for example, I would have to set up two of these CPUs. All right, so let's go ahead and make a couple of extended pattern providers. These ones are going to be the ones we'll be using for everything, and they're done in the crystal assembler. So let's grab our crystal assembler that we have and give it some power. Oh, by the way, somebody said if I use a wrench, I can set the input side on these guys, on any side. I don't know if they meant that it just rotates it or what. I think they just meant that it rotates it. Anyways, we're going to leave it like that. And we wanted to make a few of these extended pattern providers, which is going to require normal pattern providers. We should have those, right? Oh, and I think, does this require concurrent? It does. So we need to do the concurrent processors as well, which means we need to make the press first. So we need a silicon press and then these things, and that'll give us a concurrent press. So let's do that inside of an inscriber real quick. So this should make us some silicon presses. Perfect. I'll make, I don't know, like 7. Should be good. And we're going to use this to turn it into the concurrent press. And we toss those in the crystal assembler, and that's going to give us 7 of these concurrent presses. Now we can use these guys to make some intro processors. I'll just do this manually real quick. All right, so we have a stack of the concurrent processors, and now I should be able to make the extended. So we just need some of these things. And if we toss all those guys, we're getting the extended pattern providers. That should be good enough now. All right, I'm going to set those guys up over here. And basically, I'm going to set up towers of auto crafting processors. So let's start with this guy over here, and I'm going to put it in the floor. Our first extended pattern provider. Now we do need to hook those guys up with cables. And basically these pattern providers are going to use one channel each, and each tower is going to have 8 of them. Because if you remember from the previous episode, our machines, like our drives, for example, all devices can pass 8 channels in between each one. So if we have a cable connected below this pattern provider and we stack multiple pattern providers on top of each other, we can only go up to 8 before needing to hook up more cables to it. So because these pattern providers are devices and they can only transfer 8 channels in between each one. So that is why they're going to be 8 tall. And next to each one, we can put multiple machines, like this crystal assembler, for example. So I'm going to put this crystal assembler over here, and we want to make sure that the back where the power is connected to our pattern provider so it can get power from our system. It'll just pull the power from there. Now this guy, we're going to give it acceleration cards, and these crystal assemblers aren't going to be using any channels. So we can have 4 next to each pattern provider, and whatever recipe this pattern provider runs is going to split that up, split the job between the 4 crystal assemblers, making it 4 times as fast. Rather than having one pattern provider on each device, we can have it 4 times as efficient. So if we go down over here, let's grab some dense cables, and we're going to want to connect these guys up to it. So if we go, you know what? The way I'm going to set this up is from this wireless connector. Maybe we just set the wireless connector in the ceiling. I'll fix this later. But basically we're going to cover everything up so we don't even see any cables down here either. Okay, I'm going to go right underneath this guy, and I guess all 4 of these will get a dense cable. And we will hook them up together like so. So those cables will be hooked up together. Basically what I was saying is, so we're going to have 4 towers over here of 8 pattern providers. That'll be a total of 32 channels. And that's how much one dense cable can carry, right? So if we have our P2P tunnel that's bringing 32 channels over here from our controller, then those 32 channels can get used up by all of these dense cables connected to the 8 towers. So that's going to be the perfect amount of channels that we're going to be using. Right, so if I open this up, we can go ahead and put just a normal smart cable over here, and then we'll grab our P2P tunnels and put the P2P tunnel on this side, and we can connect our dense cable to there. So now when we set this up with a memory card, not memory card, we can go up here and grab our next P2P tunnel. So this guy is going to be for those 4 towers of processing machines. And we can hook that up to that guy. So now that is loaded with the configuration, and we just have to connect it to the thing over there. So I think what I'll do is make another path over here, because we're also going to be doing these machines. So I'll set down my dense cables over here. Our P2P will go over there, and then our normal cables, not the dense, the normal cables, will connect to the back of that. And this has to connect to our wireless connector, which I will put in the middle of the room. This is exactly the middle of the room. So it's going to come down over there. All right, so those guys are connected. You can see this is turned on and it's carrying 1 channel. That's the pattern provider over here. That's hooked up to it. So those guys are set up. Let's set up this other pattern provider as well. Or I'm sorry, the P2P tunnel, which will be just this next guy. So we'll grab that one. And now this P2P can also do 32 channels, which will be these 4 stacks of 8 pattern providers on this side. So this is all nice and dandy, but I do want to cover the ceiling. That way it doesn't look like that. So let's use some facades. And the way facades work in Applied Energistics, you're not going to find it inside of JEI, because there would have to be a facade for every single block, and there would be thousands. So that's why it doesn't exist. You just have to kind of know to do this. You're going to want to make these cutting knives, and I'll grab a couple of those. And you combine the cutting knife with any ingot, and it's going to give you these cable anchors. So I'm going to make a few stacks of those cable anchors, and you can make a plus sign with those cable anchors and place any block in between, like these blocks that we have the ceiling, and that'll allow you to make these facades. And the facades just go on top of all of these, and you can cover it like nothing was here in the first place. And for a place like this where you have your cable coming through the wall, if you don't want there to be a hole in the wall there, let's grab our wrench. You can put your facade on top of it to cover it, and then just pull the pipe through. So now the pipe will go through and connect to the other one, but it's going to look much cleaner than it looking like this, for example. So we can do the same thing over here, but I'm going to be moving all of these again as they're temporary. So, alrighty, so let's go up and let's see. Now you can see this guy is online because it's hooked up to this pattern provider that is going to be basically auto-crafting whatever crystal assembler recipe we have. Now these crystal assemblers can push, basically the way the pattern providers work, they'll push the items from the recipe into the machine, but it's up to you to get those items that are crafted by the machine back into your system. And the pattern providers have a return inventory. If I put something here, it's going to go into our system, So lucky for us, most machines have the ability to auto eject items, and these crystal assemblers are the same. So you're going to turn on the auto export, and when you look at the GUI right here where it's the pattern provider, see how it's disabled? We're going to enable that. So when it finishes a craft, it's going to push it back into this pattern provider, and it'll go into our system. And I want to make some patterns for that, but I don't want to go back to here to our pattern encoder to craft patterns every time, because going back and forth is going to get annoying. We can actually make a wireless encoding terminal. All right, so we have a wireless pattern encoding terminal, and what this is going to allow is basically for you to make those crafts in there. But I don't want to have two terminals, for the different things. So you can actually just combine these two together, and it'll give you a wireless universal terminal. So now when we open this guy, it is our encoding terminal and also our normal crafting terminal. My keybind for these guys, if we go to Applied Energistics, I have F to open my normal crafting terminal, and then Control F to open the encoding terminal. So when I have this in my curio slots anywhere, I don't know, how about on our shoulders? When I press F, it'll open up our normal crafting terminal. If I hold Control F, it'll open this guy. And then I also want to be able to, when I craft patterns, to put it in whatever machine. So let's also make an access terminal. And we're going to want to make the extended version of it. The extended version allows you to search for more specific things. It's really nice. So let's go ahead and make one of those. You can see when I throw these things in there and it's crafted, it goes into my system automatically. All right, there's the extended pattern access terminal. We can also combine that with this terminal, and that's going to give us all three. So you can see installed terminals. We have the wireless pattern encoding terminal, the extended pattern access terminal, and then the crafting terminal. And that is just going to go back into our curios. So now if I press F, you can see it opens up the normal thing. Control F opens up this thing. And when we make a pattern, and let's say I want to put it in the crystal assembler, I can just click on this, and then here's our pattern provider for the crystal assembler. That is going to go in there. So that will make it much easier for us to set up these patterns. First order of business, let's make more of those assemblers. So I'm going to craft the pattern for that. And I'm going to put all these things back. And then from inside of here, we're going to have to set up patterns for all of these little things. So these guys are all just basic, normal crafting grid recipes. I can put those inside of our molecular assemblers. And again, I'm going to go down the line. Now let's see if we can't make some crystal assemblers. How about 3 more? So we have all of those things, and it's going to start crafting it. You can see it's not that slow, actually. All right, and these guys I'm going to put like so. And we're going to have to set the... actually, let's grab our acceleration cards. So we're going to put our acceleration cards in there, and then set the output. Make sure the pattern provider is enabled to auto eject onto that side. Same thing with this guy. We put in those and that. All right, so now these are all set up. They're getting power from our system, from our pattern provider, and then they have auto eject on pushing back into the pattern provider. Now let's make some recipes for those. How about some slicers? These circuit slicers. They're basically better inscribers. So we can make the recipe for that. And then we'll have to make a recipe for the stone cutter, as well as all of these inscribers. Oh, and you know what's so lame? Without there being a universal press, you can't make these. The only place you can make these inscribers is inside of normal inscribers. You can't make them in the crystal assembler, so you're going to have to use normal inscribers anyways. Or I guess you could do villager trades, but that is very lame. I hope they add the universal press soon. I think what I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to make a stack of each of the presses that's required for the circuit slicer, and then that should be okay. So now you can see this one is a processing pattern. It's going to go into, it's for the crystal assembler, right? So it's going to go into our pattern provider for the crystal assemblers. And then the other one can go to our molecular assemblers. Right, so here are all of a stack of each of the press. And now if I should try to make 4 slicers, our crystal assemblers will do that. Perfect. And here we go. Now these circuit slicers, I'm going to put back here. So we will need another extended pattern provider for these guys. And if you take a look at the way this is shaped, this on the back side can accept power in the top, but this side it cannot. So we're gonna have to place these guys sideways towards the pattern provider, and then you can double check, see this one, how its device is online. If I put it down here, you can see this one is offline because that side that is getting power is on this side. So if I place it this way, now it's gonna be online. You wanna watch out for that, otherwise some of these will not work. And we're going to put the acceleration cards. Same thing with this one. We are going to enable auto output towards the pattern provider. So acceleration cards and enable auto output. All right, so those guys are set up. Now we can go ahead and add some crafting recipes. So if we take a look at the circuit slicer and we press U on it, it's going to show us all of the circuits that it can make. So I'm just going to make all of them, like that guy and this guy. So there are 8 total circuits that we can make. I'm going to put all 8 of those inside of this pattern provider, so all of these circuit slicers can make those. And then these crystal assemblers are going to be making our processors. So if we take a look at processor, you can see there's all of these. There should be 7 processors total. So let's make the recipes for those. And you see how when I hover over this plus sign, these guys turn blue? That means I have the crafting pattern set up for those already. My system knows how to make those because I put them in the pattern provider. Make sure to grab the patterns from the crystal assembler. The ones I'm doing right now are for a regular inscriber, which uses 1 press to make 1 processor, whereas the crystal assembler will use 4 of each ingredient to give you 4 processors. So the numbers are different. All right, and those 7 we can put in here for now. So now these 2 machines, pattern providers have the ability to make those circuits for us if we ever need to, so we didn't have to worry about our inscribers anymore. We were in the process of making the assembler, and these guys, so I'm going to separate out our assemblers. So I'm going to have two dedicated towers of assemblers for just our processors. So I'm actually going to take out this recipe, and this one, I only want it to have the, the processors in here. And I'm going to set up a different one on this side with another extended pattern provider. And we'll need more assemblers. And these guys can do all the other crafts that are required by the crystal assemblers. So again, set them down. Let's grab our acceleration cards. Something you may not have known, let's grab our memory card again. I want the setup for this is exactly the same as the setup for that. So we're going to need to set the auto output as well as put acceleration cards. If you didn't know, the memory card can actually copy those settings. So shift right click on this one. And then again, so this guy has no acceleration cards and auto eject is off. But if I right click over there, you can see that it put in the acceleration cards and then set up the auto output for the back to the pattern provider. If I do the same thing on this guy, it's going to turn on the auto output to the same side. But for this one, it actually has to be a different one, right? Because that's where the pattern provider is. So you will have to copy the right one like that and then do the back one. So all of those are separate setups, but they're set up. This will be very handy when we build the tower upwards, because then we can copy from this one and then go all the way up. All right, anyways, so this guy, let's press U on the crystal assemblers, and then I'm going to make some patterns for this pattern provider. All right, here are all the recipes I care about for the crystal assembler that do not include the processors, because again, that tower is going to do the processors. This one is going to do all the rest. This will keep it. The reason why I'm doing this is just to keep it separate. So if I'm crafting a bunch of like 256 million cells, and these ones are busy making that, I'll still be able to request other crafts for these things. All right, now we should be getting closer to being ready to make the assembler matrix. So these things we should be able to make, like the extended molecular assemblers, but we don't have recipes set up for acceleration cards and also regular molecular assemblers. So let's do the acceleration cards. And then normal molecular assemblers. And these guys are going to go into our pattern providers. I'm only, or the molecular assembler pattern providers, I'm only going to be making the necessary crafts in this to make the crystal assembler, because then I'm going to move all of this over to the crystal assembler once it's set up. Okay, now we do need those batter balls, and again, I'll use a little super factory manager trick. I did use up, oops, the other way. The manager has to be touching both the sink and the matter condenser. We do need a 64K in there. And again, it's 27 1Ks will make a 64K. All right, now this time, instead of putting it on the singularities, we're going to put it into matter balls. And we'll do the same thing with this. So every redstone pulse do, input the fluid from sink, and we're going to output the fluid to condenser each side. And we can copy that. Paste it a bunch. And then we will need an end at the end. I don't need to go crazy with this one because it's going to be much faster. There's the sink condenser. Push it back to the manager. Let's grab our timer. Put this guy to 2 ticks. And it's going to give us a ton of matter balls. All right, so let's see if we can't craft this thing. So we're going to need 95 craft cores. That is these guys. Can we make 95 of those? We're missing fluix dust, and then we need more of the entro infused ingots. So those ingots, let's set up another extended pattern provider, actually. And we'll put that one back here. And this guy can do our crusher. Let's go grab our mechanism crusher right here. So the crusher will go over there. We will need to give this power for now. We'll fix that later. And we want this to input output from the back, and auto eject needs to be turned on. And then in here, we're going to make all those crushing recipes for all the different crushed stuff. So those guys can go in there. And then we will need to set up the reaction chamber, and the reaction chamber can do these guys, the entro infused ingots. I guess the entro dust I'll need for the crusher as well. So one more extended pattern provider for reaction chambers. 4 reaction chambers will be good for now. And those will go around here. The reaction chambers can accept power from every direction, I believe. And we will need acceleration cards. We're almost to the good part, guys. And then again, these guys, we need to set the configuration to be enabled on the pattern provider side. This one comes everything enabled by default, but I like to clear it by pressing this and then only turning on the pattern provider. It doesn't really matter, but I don't know. I just function better that way. All right, and then we're going to press U on the reaction chamber and make all the recipes for this too. Here are all the recipes I care about that. Some of these things will use water, and other things will use the quantum infusion and also lava. We have water, and the quantum infusion is fine. We don't have lava set up yet. I can temporarily fix that by taking a entangler, and I'm just going to place it down here, set it on the lava channel. This is how we're getting infinite lava. And then on, we're going to need a storage bus. Let's grab a, and the storage bus can just go over here, and we'll need a cable. So now that 256,000 buckets of, or millibuckets of lava that's in here is going to be available for our system. Except for some reason it's not. Oh, because I need to set the input output side. So make sure this is input output. I think it doesn't work directly with the quantum entangler porter. So we can just grab one of these fluid drawers. And we'll put the fluid drawer there. Quantum entangler porter here. Turn on output and make sure auto eject is on, so it'll keep this guy filled up. Let's grab a couple upgrades. So now this guy's getting filled up from our infinite lava source. And there it is, it's showing up now. So now our system can use this in the reaction chamber. We're going to make the infinity lava cell very, very soon, so that's just going to be temporary. I think we might be finally ready to make our assembler matrix. So it was those craft cores, right? Can we make 95? We just need block of silicone. I need to change this recipe and then entro blocks. Let's make a couple hundred of those. Oh, oops, it's these guys. So there's our blocks of entro. And then if you noticed this recipe for the craft core is requiring the wrong kind of silicon. So if I take a look in here and search silicon, this is the one that's using a block of silicon, I think. So we can put this back on the bottom and it's going to bring that up, and you can see that's the wrong silicon. So let's look block of silicone. It is this guy. So we can drag that in there and then click on that to encode it again. And that can go back to our circuit slicer. Now, we just need to make some blocks of this guy. This will also be fixed pretty soon, but all right. 95 of those guys. Now it can make everything. We're going to press start, and you can see all of these things that it's going to be crafting. So you can see the items popping in over here. These guys are all going. And these guys should also be making things. You can see our power is going down and it's throttling. So we're using more power than we're currently feeding into our system. I can put some more gates on these guys to speed it up just a little bit. But the real way to fix it is to make those energy cells, which we will do in just a second. All right, let's set up. So these guys, we have these dense cables that are using 28 channels to feed into our drives. This guy will be our what do you call it? Quantum computer. And that, the whole thing only just uses one channel. So we can just feed off of this one. And then this guy, which will be our assembler matrix, is also only going to be using one channel. And we can connect that over here. So those guys are ready to go. All right, over here. And then in the middle over here, that's where I was going to put those cells. So let's take a look at energy cell. And here's the normal one. We don't want to use charged, do we? Let's use normal Certus. And then there's the dense one and the super dense. Oh, I made a mistake in setting up the recipe. These things craft in 4s. So I will have to edit all those recipes. So these guys are all doing one at a time. I need to make it 4 at a time for them all. That's what's going on. Like that. And then make sure you press the thing. There is a pattern editor, I believe. I don't know if it's in this pack. And if expanded AE is in your pack, you can do this just in the machine too. All right, so all these guys were changed to 4. So on the bottom and the top, I'm going to have it be just the normal walls. There's the frame. So the walls will need 50 of. Well, we have 1, so I'll make 49. And those are going to go in between the frames. Then the inside we're going to be filling up with these cores. All right, and then I just need 100 more of those glasses. Right, and you can see it is lit up and the device is online now. And when we right click, you can see all of this storage for our patterns in there, which means we can now get rid of all of these, no longer needed, because we have a much better system set up now. And all of these patterns we could just dump inside of this guy. So you can see how much more storage it has. All right, so the assembler, matrix is set up. The next thing we're going to need to do is set up the quantum computer. Then that'll go over here. All right, for the quantum computer, we're going to need 218 of the structures. This one doesn't have frames and walls. It's just the structure, which is this guy. So I can make that. And these guys, we can go like so. And we'll leave the center so until we can, or we'll leave one side open until we can fill it up with the other things. All right, this computer core is something that we're going to be needing. And then we'll need to set up, basically we'll need to set up recipes for the computer core, the storages, the data entangler, the multi-threader, and also the accelerators. And then we're going to autocraft all of those and then come back in the same exact way that we built this. We're going to put it all inside the quantum computer, and then we'll have that. The quantum computer uses a ton of singularities, so to set this back up and get more. Like if we need to make 2 of these core pieces, and that's going to require about 500 singularities. So I also had to update my CPU to a 256K. So let me see if I can now make 2 of these cores. We don't have enough coprocessors, I think. No, it works. So this you definitely don't want to do by hand. I mean, look at how many things it is. The quantum computer is actually legitimately very expensive. But everything should be going now. Let's go check up here. We've got these guys making processors. These guys are smashing circuits. This guy's crushing a bunch of stuff, so everything is going. Our reaction chamber should be going also. Crazy. Guys, you can time wand the manager as well as the thing, and so now I'm pumping out singularities like crazy. This recipe seems like it requires 2,000 singularities or more. It's kind of insane. But we're almost there. Will that be enough? We needed... The data entangler is the last thing I need. Yep. That's going to take a while to craft. So expensive. While that's crafting, let's go ahead and set up our quantum computer. So this guy... We're gonna use the stick. I'm gonna put 2 layers of those, and then I'd like to put the core directly in the middle. This is wrong. I like to put the core directly in the middle. Obviously, it doesn't matter where you put it. And then we're gonna continue building that up. And then these last 3 spots will be for our multi-threader. The data entangler will go over there, and then our storage right there. And we'll be done as soon as this is over. That's it. We are done. Let's put the data entangler there and our last piece of structure. And now we have our quantum computer. So you remember our CPU, right, had 26 coprocessors and 256,000 storage. Well, this one has 2 billion storage and 3,904 coprocessors, which actually seems a little low. I thought it was like 5,000. Maybe they changed the numbers. I don't know. But anyways, we have that set up now, and that's going to take care of all of our autocrafting needs. One last thing before I leave you guys for this episode. Obviously, these 4 assemblers and circuit slicers for our processors aren't going to cut it. And I want to expand this, and I hinted at it before where we're going to put more over here. So let's grab more of those extended pattern providers. All right, so we're ready to expand this vertically up to 8 more, right? So each tower, this one has 1 pattern provider with 4 assemblers. We're going to go up to 8 and then set up another 8 over here. Really, really easy to do. And I'm going to shift right click with my building gadget and have it on vertical column mode. And we're going to go 7 for this one. So it's going to build all the way up top. Now, each one of these pattern providers is going to need its own set of patterns. And I've seen people sit there and make individual patterns for each of these pattern providers. So imagine we have to do 32 pattern providers and you make all of these recipes by hand 32 different times. Please don't do that. You can have some blank patterns in your inventory. So I'm going to grab a bunch of those, and we'll also grab a bunch of acceleration cards. So let's say like 300 acceleration cards. Now let me show you how easy it is to expand this. So this one that we want to expand, I'm going to shift right click with the memory card to copy the configuration. And then I will use our building gadget to build that up all the way. So now these guys are all 9 because we're getting channels from the one below, but there's nothing inside of them. But since I copied the settings from there and I have blank patterns, I can just paste those patterns inside of this pattern provider. So instead of making those individually, you can solve it by just right-clicking on it. So those guys have all of those in there. And then now I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to copy the settings for this guy, shift right-click to select that specific one, and our building gadget is going to place them all in the correct orientation based on the one we selected from. So now this guy has no acceleration cards and that setting is not set right, but when we shift right-click, it puts in acceleration cards, and look at that, it's enabled in the back. So then I'm just going to paste those into all of these and do the same thing over here. When I come to this side, I have to copy the new machine because the settings for this one are different, and also the sides are different. So you see how that one is going to face the power input side on the back side. So you just shift right-click, and now it's going to change it to the way this one is set up. Look at that. And then we just paste, 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 and just double check acceleration cards and the output setting is right. So you just go ahead and do that, copy it, select the new side, put them down, and paste the settings. And that is completely set up. Really easy. Then we're going to come over here and do the same thing with this guy. So we'll put him down. And this was on, we're going to put it on 8. Copy that. And we're going to have to break one of these to copy the pattern providers again and paste them into these guys. All right, so all of these guys are set up and super easily, just a couple of minutes. We have 64 crystal assemblers and 64 circuit slicers fully automated for us to use. I don't think I'll need any more of this, but if you did want to add more, all you have to do is set up another P2P tunnel, and then you can do 32 more channels on that P2P tunnel, which means 4 more towers of these, and set them up however you want. Again, don't sleep on the memory card. You can really easily copy the settings from one and then paste it into the other ones, and it'll make the patterns for you as well. Please, please, please don't make those by hand. All right, I think this is where I'm going to leave it. I know these last couple of episodes have been really long. I just want to get through this and have my Autocrafting set up so then we can like actually move on and do other things. I don't want to spend 5 episodes setting up applied energistics. So there's a couple of other things we still need to do. We'll set up these guys behind us a little bit more. So we'll increase those towers. We're going to set up power storage on cells with applied flux. And then we also need some cells to build up the buffer inside of our system. So a couple more things left to do that we'll take care of probably in the next episode. But for now, that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.